Hello and welcome back to JKerniferAstrology. We are here to discuss the August 16th new moon, 23 degrees Leo, happening at 5:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. August 2023 is a special month because we have 3 lunations instead of the usual 2 due to a rare and benefic blue moon at the end of the month. In modern times, a blue moon is when there are 2 full moons within a single calendar month. This happens approximately every 18 months or every year and a half. Before we dive in to the specifics for this new moon, 23 degrees Leo on August 16th, let's rewind a little bit and recap on the recent astrological history and events. We recently completed the annual Lionsgate portal from July 26th or so to about August 12th. Peaking on 808, August 8th, a special date to me for several reasons that I'll dive into in another video. For the sake of time, let's get right into why Lionsgate Portal is so important every year. On 808, we had the peak of Lionsgate Portal and we had our last quarter moon, 15 degrees Taurus. So I'd like to begin there. The last quarter moon is the lunar phase halfway between the full and new moon, when the moon is half illuminated. It's an opportunity to release something, to make room for what you're manifesting under the upcoming new moon, the topic of today's video, the new moon in Leo. So let's talk a little about Lionsgate Portal. Lionsgate Portal from July 26th until August 12th annually. Lionsgate Portal is the annual alignment of Sirius, Orion, and the Great Pyramids in Egypt, when the Nile River reaches its highest level. In ancient Egypt, this was a time to practice gratitude and to celebrate abundance and fertility. Additionally, in numerology, the numbers 888 and 808 specifically symbolize abundance. But we aren't able to receive external abundance if we aren't living abundantly internally. I'll explain. This is a time to shift out of any lack mentality and to refocus your energy on appreciating, with gratitude, what you already have. Some of you may be familiar with the backwards law, and I'll put a little bit about that on the screen here. The Lionsgate Portal is essentially a gateway to galactic energy. It offers a direct portal to greater consciousness and brings in collective leaps in spiritual awakening. So if you're like me and you've been patiently awaiting the rest of the collective to wake up and align with greater consciousness, you won't have to wait much longer. People are waking up every day. Let's talk a little more about this last quarter moon, 15 degrees Taurus. The last quarter moon is when the sun and moon form a challenging high pressure 90-degree angle or square to one another. At 15 degrees of Taurus, this is precisely where Jupiter is. So the moon and Jupiter formed a square to the sun in Leo. Additionally, Jupiter in Taurus and the moon there as well, forming a trine to Mars and Mercury in Virgo, really want us to notice what's coming up for us. Triggers, be them internal or physical, related to our health and our bodies. It wants us to notice what's no longer serving us so we can release it and make room for healthier habits. It wants you to take care of your first home, your body, your temple. Do you know any Taurus moons, North Node in Taurus, or South Node in Taurus? They're brilliant cooks. The last 2 men I've dated were either a North Node in Taurus or a South Node in Taurus, and they're both brilliant in the kitchen. Taurus energy wants you to ground down and be present, to nourish thyself through foods that are whole foods from the earth, minimally processed and not produced in a factory. You may have noticed under these transits that foods you normally tolerated, and maybe it's not just foods, maybe it's things like coffee, caffeine, food additives. It could be things like medical marijuana, it could be vape, it could be any substance that normally you would tolerate that might have felt particularly unhealthy or particularly heavy under this transit. It might have even made you sick or feel a little under the weather. Ultimately, your body knows what's good for it. We need to learn to trust it and listen to its intuitive wisdom. This is a time to purge your body of all toxins and free yourself of any addictions. If you are struggling with addiction, know that I understand. It's a disease that has plagued my family, and I believe it plagues pretty much every family and everyone that you meet knows someone who struggles with addiction. So if this is you, seek help if you need it. It may be time to commit to making a lifestyle change. You're encouraged to consume only content, be it music, podcasts, books, news, that inspires and uplifts. Avoid anything that increases fear, insecurity, or comparison. This is a time to release any poisons you have stored within your body, be it physically or emotionally, so that you can make room and invite better in. As far as we know, we only have one life in this vessel. So please don't waste this opportunity by clinging to short-lived and temporary comforts that ultimately hold you back from attaining your highest potential for health and wellness. Unfortunately, August 8th also brought us yet another devastating wildfire, this time to Maui, Hawaii. My thoughts and prayers are with each and every one of you. It's been incredibly hard to watch. August 8th brought this square between the sun, Jupiter, and the moon. But remember that sun is strong in fixed fire sign Leo, in its sign of rulership. And this was forming a square to an even stronger, exalted moon in Taurus, with Jupiter there expanding the energy. Taurus is a fixed earth sign that represents Mother Earth herself. On August 10th, Venus, representing what we love and value, and having close ties to the work that we do and our homes, retrograde in fixed fire sign Leo at 22 degrees, formed an exact square to Uranus, the great liberator that delivers curveballs and sudden change, 22 degrees of Taurus. I'm mentioning the exact degree points because it'll come up again in a few seconds. But 22 degrees and 18 degrees are both degree points you'll want to pay attention to when they come up. Whenever Venus squares Uranus, it brings in volatility and disruption. It'll bring in a sudden change that disrupts anything that you're attached to, particularly things that we're overly attached to, or that we've previously poured a lot of time or energy invested into. In this case, it's even more significant that Venus retrograde formed an exact square to Uranus in Taurus, which answers to Venus while it's retrograde because it's in the sign of Taurus, one of the two signs that Venus rules. Uranus in Taurus brings extreme and wild weather events to begin with, especially square to its depositor, its planetary ruler, and especially at the 22nd degree, the kill or be killed degree. Have you noticed how much wildfire has been a theme all summer? We had Mars in Leo from May 20th to July 10th, and Venus in Leo for a very long time, from June 5th until my birthday, October 8th, with its retrograde beginning on the precise day Leo season started on July 22nd, forming several high pressure challenging squares, 90-degree angles, to both Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus as Venus retrograde travels from 28 degrees Leo to 12 degrees Leo and then returns forward again. Uranus, we mentioned, is the great liberator that throws us curveballs via sudden change, ultimately aiming to free us of the shackles of stagnation, while Jupiter seeks to expand, heal, and provide wisdom. Unfortunately, the astrology indicates there are more extreme weather events to come. We've seen a lot of flooding and we've seen a lot of fire, and it isn't over yet, especially as we approach this new moon, the blue moon at the end of the month, and the peak of hurricane season, with the waters in the Gulf Coast at some of their warmest, ready to fuel the next perfect storm. Additionally, several times in August and over the next few months, we will have major placements at the 18th degree and the 22nd degree. According to degree astrology, when something happens that affects millions of people, there are at least 2 placements at the 18th or 22nd degree, or a combination of both. The 18th degree is considered an evil degree, which can indicate bad fortune or severe health issues, while the 22nd degree, the kill or be killed degree, indicates the passing of a loved one. August 15th and August 16th have me concerned because we have several planets at the 18th and 22nd degree, especially August 15th. On August 15th, we have the Sun, 22 degrees Leo, Venus, retrograde, 18 degrees Leo, Mercury, 18 degrees Virgo, a sign associated with health, and Mars, 22 degrees Virgo. That's 4 planets at the 18th and 22nd degrees. On the 16th, we have Venus retrograde still at 18 degrees. It will be at 18 degrees both of these days, Leo. The moon, 22 degrees Leo, just prior to this new moon. So the moon will be 22 degrees Leo at around 3:15 a.m. until about 4:30 a.m., right before the moon and the sun align at 23 degrees Leo for this new moon at 5:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also still have Mars, 22 degrees Virgo. Thank goodness Uranus enters the 23rd degree of Taurus and is no longer at the 22nd degree on the 15th. But with Uranus retrograde coming up at the end of the month, on August 28th, Uranus will be back to the 22nd degree, and it's still forming a high-pressure square to this new moon within a 1-degree orb. So it's still a major factor. Now, I'm not typically a doom and gloom, fear-instilling astrologer, but I want to be very real with you, because what I see coming as we approach the new moon in Leo, the blue moon at the end of the month, and Mercury retrograde, August 23rd to September 15th, through Virgo, a health-related sign, with half the planets in our solar system retrograde simultaneously, another rare occurrence. It has me shook. Let's look at the 3 lunations for August. On August 1st, the first day of August, we had our first full moon. This full moon was in Aquarius. Aquarius being ruled by both Uranus and Saturn, having a lot to do with the collective unconscious, networks, aliens, and UFOs. You may have seen a lot of alien and UFO discussion on the news lately. It's all over my YouTube feed. This is not a coincidence as we approach Pluto in Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, re-entering 0 degrees Aquarius in late January 2024, and for the next 20 years until 2044. We're on the brink of not only a new generation, but an entirely new era. Secondly, we have the topic of this video, the new moon, 23 degrees Leo. On August 30th or August 31st, depending on where in the world you're tuning in from, we have the full moon in Pisces at 7 degrees Pisces, which is the exact degree that Saturn in Pisces traveled this year. So from March 7th, under the full moon in Virgo during Pisces season, we had Saturn. That one was also at 7 degrees, by the way, 7 degrees Virgo on the 7th. We had Saturn entered 0 degrees Pisces, and Saturn made it through June, made it to 7 degrees Pisces before its retrograde began. Saturn is now at the 4th degree of Pisces, moving through its retrograde, about to approach the 3rd degree, which we'll get into in another video. This full moon at the end of the month in August is the blue moon, which is sure to bring something unexpected. This is the when pigs fly energy. Additionally, both of the full moons in August are what are called supermoons, which is when the moon is closest to the Earth in its perigee, in its orbit, making it appear larger than other full moons. This not only makes the moon bigger and brighter, it increases the potential for seismic activity. I don't know if you pay attention to what's going on over in Yellowstone, but they have had a lot of seismic activity this summer. I know I have a few subscribers who work for Yellowstone Park, and if you're tuning in, first of all, I'd like to thank you for being here. But secondly, if you have any information you'd like to share in the comments below, I would love to hear more information. I started this YouTube channel to create a safe place where people can discuss things like astrology, tie it into current events, and help make sense of this crazy world. I also aim to draw more like-minded people, and while it has brought me some really tremendous clients, I'm really just looking to build a community here, to grow together and create this safe space where we can talk about astrology. Additionally, we should talk about Uranus, Aquarius, and the 23rd degree, which is associated with Aquarius and Uranus energy. Uranus rules earthquakes and electricity, so Uranus in Taurus is sure to bring in more wild and extreme weather events. We also have several placements at the 23rd degree, which, like we said, is associated with this electric, eccentric Aquarian energy. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the deep dive, but for the sake of the video, let's dive right into introducing this new moon. This new moon, 23 degrees Leo, is when the moon and sun align in the exact same spot in the sky. This is happening very early on Wednesday, August 16th, 5:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 23 degrees of the constellation Leo. We also have Venus Retrograde and Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Leo nearby, forming a conjunction to this new moon. So those are also key players. New moons are for planting seeds of intention to be harvested or completed under the corresponding full moon 6 months from now. Go ahead and mark your calendars. The full moon in Leo will occur at 5 degrees of Leo on Thursday, January 24th, 2025. Leo energy incarnated to shine its light and to be a light unto others through creative self-expression and heart-centered leadership or parenting. So this new moon in Leo is all about planting new seeds of intention around Leo themes. The sun represents our ego in its purest form, aka our self-concept of self. The sun in Leo, like we said, is in its sign of rulership, which makes it really strong here. Anyone who is a Leo sun, you may notice they have natural leadership skills, and they're very good at putting their own needs first. Come on, baby. This is very similar to having your sun in Aries, where the sun is exalted. However, when this is in shadow or imbalanced or goes too far, it can be overly focused on the self at the detriment of its interpersonal relationships, at the detriment of others. It may have a my way or the highway attitude and struggle with the art of compromise and negotiation. It may struggle to be a team player. Since the new moon in Leo is in conjunction with and coincides with Venus retrograde through Leo, this brings up additional themes of female empowerment and right relationship with self. When we pour energy into our own cups and practice self-love through establishing healthy, mutually beneficial boundaries, we are able to allow that cup to overflow so that we can pour unto others without depleting from our own supply. So these transits are all about extending that right relationship with self onto right relationship with other. The key to finding balance here is in learning how to put on your own oxygen mask first, so then you can help the people around you. But you never want to do this at the expense of someone else, unless you'd like the same done to you when karma comes around to collect. This is all being amplified by Jupiter, which expands. Jupiter in Taurus represents our physical reality, our values, and our overall approach to abundance, or how open we are to receiving opportunities when they arise. For example, if we're still hung up on an ex and we're going into the dating world to try to heal through dating other people, well, that spreads that unhealed pain onto these unknowing, innocent other people, and it doesn't heal our heart. It ends up accruing more karma. Similarly, how can you attract the right or dream job when you're tied up in the wrong one? We can't receive these opportunities if we don't make space for them. Jupiter in Taurus is heavily involved in this, and we'll get into the details a bit more as we explore the aspects. But remember that anything in the sign of Taurus is answering to Venus while it's retrograde, and Venus retrograde is conjunct this new moon. This is bringing in major messages. It's no coincidence that Jupiter retrograde begins the day after Venus retrograde ends. Thankfully, they're not retrograde at the same time. Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus are ruled by Taurus's planetary ruler, Venus. So they're therefore strongly influenced and closely tied to this Venus retrograde through Leo. This is requiring greater overall mindfulness around Venusian themes, and you'll especially want to take time to review energy input versus energy output, money coming in versus money going out. We're aiming for balance and equity here, equilibrium. Watch for having too much pride, over-the-top egocentrism, and overindulging under these transits. With the sun and moon both in Leo, we are stepping into greater sovereignty. It is by having the courage to shine our own light authentically that we inspire others to do the same. So shine on, my crazy, beautiful diamonds. Under this energy, I recommend embodying Leo as much as possible. Keep it as light and childlike and playful as you can. Find whatever it is that sparks joy, a creative outlet, cooking, anything that makes you lose all track of time and helps you enter that creative flow state. And do that as much as possible. especially as the energies get heavier. Specifically, this new moon happening 23 degrees Leo, which, like we said, 23 degrees is associated with Uranus and Aquarian energy, indicates that major revelations, shocks, and surprises are coming to light. Uranus, Aquarius, and the 23rd degree rule networks, including networks of transportation, like aviation and trains, the nervous system in our bodies, power grids, electricity, the collective unconscious, technology, information technology, data, and cybersecurity, along with electrical storms and earthquakes, be them literal or metaphorical. Pull out your chart, take a look where you have 23 degrees Leo, plus or minus 5 degrees. The more placements you have there, the more impactful it will be, and the more personal the placements, such as a rising sign, a sun sign, a moon sign, a north node, a south node, Venus, Mercury, or Mars, the more intense it will be for you. This is where we're planting new seeds of intention along Leo themes. I also recommend checking where you have 5 degrees Leo, plus or minus 5 degrees, but especially minus between 0 and 5 degrees Leo. It's where my south node is, 4 degrees Leo, as this is where new seeds of intention will come to completion or fruition under the full moon 5 degrees Leo in 6 months on Thursday, January 24th, 2024, just as Pluto re-enters 0 degrees Aquarius, directly opposite this full moon. Like I said, mark your calendars. This January wolf moon is going to be big. For this new moon, 23 degrees Leo, I recommend checking where you have 23 degrees plus or minus 5 degrees of all of the fixed signs. I'll review them for you. Fixed Earth is Taurus. Check where you have 23 degrees Taurus, plus or minus standard deviation of 5 degrees. Check also 23 degrees Scorpio, plus or minus 5 degrees, and 23 degrees Aquarius, plus or minus 5 degrees. This is forming either an opposition or a challenging square. Oppositions and squares are all challenging. Oppositions affect our interpersonal connections, while squares affect us more internally. But either way, anything you have in these locations will be challenged under this new moon. Now for the deep dive. We have 6 placements in fixed signs. Fixed signs are very set in their way, and 7 placements in fire signs. That means it's abnormally hot in the northern hemisphere. You may notice there's been a theme all summer of wildfire ravaging and even limiting tourism in several popular tourist destinations. Unfortunately, also affecting many lives. We have 4 placements in the fixed fire sign, Leo. The sun, which like we said is strong in rulership in Leo. The moon, Venus Retrograde, the first Venus retrograde to not only begin but end in the sign of Leo since 1772. And Black Moon Lilith, with Black Moon Lilith there helping to empower the divine feminine collective. We have 2 placements in fixed earth sign Taurus, Jupiter and Uranus, 2 placements in cardinal fire sign Aries, the north node of fate and destiny, and Chiron. You may be familiar with Chiron from Greek mythology. Chiron was the centaur who trained both Hercules and Achilles, and Chiron is an asteroid in astrology that represents our deepest soul wound. Chiron is where I started my astrological journey. Yes, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, so I like to dive deep and I like to get into the nitty-gritty. My Chiron in Cancer is in my midheaven. It is a big, gaping mother wound that literally reads, Chiron in Cancer conjunct the midheaven, literally reads, a mother with malignant narcissism, with a life history of addiction problems that instead of healing, she projects onto her loved ones around her, and so spreading that unhealed trauma. It's literally something I use. It's in my midheaven, the midheaven and the 10th house representing your public reputation and your career. It's literally what I use on a daily basis to help my clients heal through narcissistic abuse and trauma recovery, and to uncover these repressed traumas within their own lives and their own experience. I am more than okay with it being in my house of public reputation, as long as it's being used to help transform and improve the lives of others. I have completely given myself to this. Our 7th placement in a fire sign is our galactic center, which is pretty much fixed at 27 degrees Sagittarius. That's a lot of fire. Uranus and Jupiter, both in Taurus, are bringing very different out-of-the-box belief systems and thinking. Uranus being the out-of-the-box thinking, and Taurus having to do with our values, especially toward what we previously valued. And remember, with Venus retrograde, what you value on June 5th, when Venus first entered Leo, or even at the beginning of Venus retrograde on July 22nd, is going to be vastly different from what you value come the end of Venus retrograde in September, and when Venus enters Virgo on my birthday, October 8th. Black Moon Lilith is in conjunction with Venus retrograde and this new moon, the moon and sun, at 23 degrees Leo. Black Moon Lilith represents where we disempower ourselves. Black Moon Lilith is the fabled first wife of Adam, as in Adam and Eve, who refused to succumb to a life of subservience to man, and therefore was banished from the Garden of Eden and cast out as an evil seductress. It's a perfect embodiment of how the patriarchy has suppressed and misrepresented divine femininity for thousands of years. She's the great feminine rebel who stands for justice, equality, liberation, and self-empowerment. I had the opportunity to watch Barbie last night with my boyfriend, and it is right on theme for Venus retrograde. If you haven't had an opportunity to go watch it, I highly recommend it. It's very funny. It probably, if he hadn't wanted to see it, it probably wouldn't have been something I would have gone out of my way to see, if not for astrological research. I'm also not a big movie theater person, but I am very glad that I saw it. Margot Robbie was the perfect casting for Barbie, and feminine empowerment, female empowerment was a major theme throughout the film as well. Uranus is the next planet to go retrograde on August 28th. So Uranus is the star of the show in August. We also had August 1st kick off with a full moon in Aquarius, answering to Uranus. Uranus, Aquarius, and the 23rd degree love change, and they're particularly uncomfortable in the fixed earth sign Taurus, which is one of the most stubborn energies we have. It's particularly resistant to change because change threatens the very security that Taurus prides itself on. Uranus isn't a bad guy. Although it delivers karma, it is on your side. Uranus ultimately wants to liberate you from the shackles of stagnation, especially for the fixed energies, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, which tend to be a little more set in their ways. Uranus, Aquarius, and the 23rd degree incarnated to be on the outside looking in, to apply their objectivity and stoic detachment, and therefore improve society with this unique outside looking in perspective. Just ask a Virgo. If you're too tangled in the weeds, it can be really hard to see the big picture. Uranus in the 23rd degree especially want to liberate you from this lack mentality, from any limiting thoughts and behaviors. We mentioned that Uranus brings sudden change, which makes neither Uranus nor Aquarius particularly stable. This gives Uranus a bit of instability, especially around geomagnetics. You may notice more solar flares, more seismic activity, and more extreme weather events as we enter the peak of hurricane season, especially under this new moon and as we approach Mercury retrograde and the blue moon. According to spaceweather.com, we've been experiencing an exponential increase in solar flare activity. Uranus and Aquarius thrive under change and a bit of eccentricity, and are admittedly rebel rousers. For example, I have my North Node in Aquarius on my 5th house cusp, Uranus, 5 degrees, a degree associated with Leo and shining your light authentically, 5 degrees Capricorn, in my 3rd house, fused with Neptune, nearby at 11 degrees, an Aquarian degree, my 3rd house of communication, the house that's ruled by Mercury and Gemini. This North Node on the cusp of my 5th house, this North Node in Aquarius, is forming an exact trine a grand air trine, a perfect equilateral triangle with my Mercury in Libra, my chart ruler Venus nearby also in Libra, my ascendant in Libra with both of those, Mercury and Venus rising in the 12th house, my ascendant and my sun in the first house. All of those in conjunction, forming a grand air trine, a perfect equilateral triangle to my north node in Aquarius, and my moon and Mars fused together in Gemini on the cusps of the moon in my 8th and Mars in my 9th house. Moon and Mars in Gemini incarnated for information gathering and the dissemination of knowledge. Additionally, both my ascendant and sun are in the second decan, or the second third, the middle degrees of Libra, which is ruled by Uranus instead of Venus, and gives me a much more Aquarian flavor to my energy to go with my Libra. And remember we said that North Node, Fate and Destiny, is in Aquarius on the cusp of my 5th house, the 5th house being ruled by the Sun and Leo energy, where we shine. Is it any wonder I'm a writer who uses the medium of astrology to transform lives and help people come into greater awareness of their own limiting thought and behavior patterns, and that I do so on YouTube? Before we dive into the aspects specific to this new moon, I'd like to share with you the Sabian symbols for 24 degrees Aquarius. Remember with the Sabian symbols, in this book, in this version, it starts at 1 degree instead of 0. So when we have something at 23 degrees and change, like we do in this new moon, we need to round up, because this book goes from 1 degree to 30 degrees instead of 0 to 29. We'll be reading 24 degrees. Since this new moon is happening at precisely 23 degrees and 16 minutes of Leo, we'll be rounding up and reading 24 degrees Leo from the Sabian Symbols, A Screen of Prophecy by Diana E. Roche. 24 degrees Leo, an untidy, unkempt man. The theme here, judging by appearance. This symbol speaks to inner reality and to total immersion in some self-exalted task or goal. The image of an untidy, unkempt man is another of the reversed or negative symbols, and it alludes to the indifference to physical comfort, outer appearance, and opinions of others that often accompanies an obsession with a mission. The suggestion here is that whatever the individual has brought to center in his person from the outer world will be refined, developed, and poured back for the benefit of those who will accept and use it. The earliest description of this image described the figure as a yogi of transcendent powers, thereby alluding to the spiritual quality of this particular degree. On the positive, at its highest, this symbol indicates unflustered finesse in handling all practical matters and a wisdom born of experience. On the negative, it can represent self-obsession, slavenness, or irresponsible self-neglect. Today, the accent is on indifference to criticism. Outer appearances are ignored as the focus turns inward. The opportunity? Your greatest advantage lies in doing what has to be done without being concerned about what others think about it. Guard against jeopardizing your health by becoming so overly involved in projects that you forget to take care of your basic needs. Don't push beyond your limits, especially with all this energy in Virgo, and especially as we approach Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Take it from a past life, Leo Virgo, a person who has Virgo ruling her 12th house. Don't burn the candle at both ends. Take care of your needs. Ground down with nourishing food, and then return to the problem at hand. Stepping stones: inner directedness, self-sufficiency, independence, confidence, self-assurance, self-reliance, carelessness, neglect, indifference, self-absorption, insensitivity, self-possession, and impassivity. Let's explore the aspects specific to this new moon. We have a fixed square, the sun and moon, plus black moon Lilith and Venus retrograde, all in Leo, forming a square to Uranus in Taurus. This is breakthrough energy. The last quarter moon in Taurus was a taste of this, but this is calling us to ask where we need to release bad habits, especially as it relates to our food, our money, and our resources. where we might be prone to overindulge. This square wants you to be bold and courageous, to bring your own sunshine wherever you go, especially when the energy gets heavy. You have to remember that Taurus has the energy of a rock. Taurus doesn't alter its energy for anything external. Be that rock. This T-square is about standing in your own authenticity and daring to be different and not giving any stock to the opinions of others. Do you know how many people think that I'm insane because I like astrology? Let them stay small-minded. I'll continue to elevate, and I will draw in more like-minded people who are aligned with where I'm headed, not where I've been. I'd like to also remind you that royalty doesn't step down from the throne when they address their subjects. Similarly, don't allow external circumstances to shake your core frequency, your core vibration. Leo is all about strength, charisma, confidence, passion, play, determination, and tenacity. The lion isn't lazy. The lion knows precisely when to utilize its energy and when to conserve it. We also have a grand Earth trine between Uranus, now 23 degrees Taurus, Pluto retrograde, 28 degrees Capricorn, and Mars, 22 degrees Virgo, with Mercury nearby. This is a perfect equilateral triangle, which is very fortuitous, and this one will heavily involve innovation. The earth signs are all about manifesting things in the 3D through their hard work and consistent effort. Uranus 23 degrees Taurus is revolutionizing our food, our money, and our resources, and our approach to all those things. While Pluto 28 degrees Capricorn is all about structures, hierarchies, organizations, especially as those relate to power. Mars in Virgo is all about the details. Planning, organizing, researching, and preparing, and being proactive towards one's health and well-being. Under these transits, we're building new structures and laying the foundation for a new Earth, the age of Aquarius, when Pluto re-enters Aquarius, 0 degrees Aquarius, January 2024, and for the next 20 years. 2044. We also have a trine between Jupiter in Taurus and Mercury in Virgo, with Mercury catching up to Mars. Mercury and Mars in Virgo has us very focused on our health and our nutrition. This transit is incredibly activating for the mind, allowing us to focus on big ideas. Remember, Jupiter's about expansion. Mercury rules the mind, and big thinking for the future, especially as it relates to our health. Mercury began its pre-retrograde shadow on August 3rd, when it arrived at 8 degrees Virgo. So you should be looking out for breadcrumbs from the universe between August 3rd and August 23rd, when the Mercury retrograde officially begins. These are clues for what you'll need to focus on during the Mercury retrograde. And as a clue, these themes will be closely related to our health and wellness. It may also have a lot to do with data and data privacy and your own personal data and how diligent you are about backing it up and storing it. After this video and after some dinner plans we have this week, my number one priority will be backing up as much of this footage as I can onto what are now 3 separate external hard drives organized for various projects, so that I, with Mercury rising and 2 placements in Gemini, can hopefully get through this Mercury retrograde as unscathed as possible. Virgo incarnated with a high attention to detail, allowing it to see what's wrong so it can fix and improve for greater efficiency, organization, and health. They love the more minute details. Pay attention to what grabs your attention, especially under times of stress. Write these down. Learn to become a conscious observer of your own mind. It is through awareness that we lead to control. Similarly, a lot of people are changing what they're doing for work, so you might have a couple job offers on the table, or you might come into an opportunity to negotiate your salary. It's up to you to manage your financial energy and raise the bar. No one else is going to do that for you. This is all based on you and your own self-worth. So get clear on that self-worth, know your worth, and know how much to charge for your time and energy. I'll remind you that this is a candidate market. The businesses no longer have the power to exploit us. You have the power to decide where you want to work. You have the power to decide where you want to invest your time and energy and which companies you feel are worthy of that. You also have a tremendous amount of power. I know these are hard times and we don't have a surplus of money right now, but what money you do have and where you spend it is entirely within your power. I encourage you to be as conscious as possible with where you put that dollar, that euro, that British pound, wherever you're tuning in from. You have the power to invest that money into companies that align with your personal value system. This may be the only power we have in the future. Ultimately, you have free will. It's entirely within your power to get organized, to create a plan, to shift out of a lack mentality, to create a vision board, especially under this new moon in Leo and as we approach the blue moon in Pisces at the end of August. You need to be your own advocate. Know your own worth and know your own worth and value to negotiate better pay, better salary. Know when you're being used, know when you're being exploited, and know when to walk away when you're not being appreciated for a friendlier environment. We also have Mercury and Mars opposite Neptune in Pisces under this new moon in Leo. Neptune is the great dissolver, working against Mars, our motivation and drive, and our conscious logical minds and focus, Mercury, and our communication. Watch for losing energy and focus or concentration under this transit, but know that it'll shift. And also know that this is great energy for practicing yoga, breath work, meditation. So while you might not be focused at work or you might not be focused on a project that you've been working on, it's okay to take some time off. It's okay to take some extra time and reallocate it toward things that are ultimately in your best interest. Journaling, yoga, breath work, take a trip to the beach, get in the ocean, ground yourself in nature, walk barefoot in the grass. Do whatever you need to do. Do whatever fills your cup. Do whatever gets you grounded and centered. And we haven't talked about this in a little bit, but if you rewind to past videos, I talk about it exhaustively, so you're more than welcome to rewind back to previous installments of these new moon and full moon videos for that cardinal T-square involving Pluto and the nodes of fate and destiny. The North Node now at 26 degrees Aries, coming into conjunction with Chiron, our deepest soul wounds, at 19 degrees Aries, and the South Node, our karmic fate and destiny, what we're collectively shedding, 26 degrees Libra. Still within a 2-degree orb, a T-square, challenging T-square to Pluto retrograde, 28 degrees Capricorn. This is bringing in karmic lessons and deep personal transformation. I'm hearing Cleaning Out My Closet by Eminem as we're individually getting more clear on our unconscious blocks. The South Node, 26 degrees Libra, answering to Venus retrograde in Leo, is deeply reprogramming us on an unconscious level, specifically related to what it means to have fulfilling, satisfying, mutually beneficial, and reciprocal interpersonal relationships. Which leaves me with my final thoughts for the video. Under these transits, many people will be choosing the self and deciding to go their own way. There's another song for you. Especially after Venus Cazimi, which I'm recording this video on August 13th during the Venus Cazimi. The Venus Cazimi is the rebirth. Anytime a planet goes retrograde, so it's an optical illusion, right? It's not really spinning backward, but each planet has an orbit. And with both Mercury, we'll talk about Mercury and Venus since they're both relevant. Mercury always travels within one constellation, one sign of the sun. So it's almost like a rubber band. Mercury gets to a certain point, and then a rubber band is like, okay, bringing it back like a slingshot back to the sun. Similarly with Venus, Venus always travels within 2 constellations of the sun. So similarly, when Venus is retrograde, it can only get so far from the sun until it's slingshotted backwards. The Venus Cazimi, or the Mercury Cazimi, or any Cazimi, is when that planet aligns with the sun, or combusts with the sun. It's a rebirth. This Venus retrograde is a rebirth that'll mark the start of an 8-year cycle. Venus has been traveling in front of the sun. Now Venus and the sun align at 20 degrees Leo on August 13th, today as I'm filming this video. And then Venus will travel in its retrograde as the sun progresses forward through Leo. Venus travels behind the sun, which is bringing in a major shift in energy and major clarity along Venusian themes, what we love and value, and how we invest our time, and whether that's how we want to continue to invest it moving forward. The new moon in Leo is bringing in a big week of relationship revelations. There may be some major relationship changes, things that might have already been weighing heavily on our minds. We're now able to come into awareness of it and affect change in the 3D reality. If you're in a long-term connection, you may be called to ask what you can do differently to change up the relationship, to bring in more newness, or possibly even taking the next steps or greater commitment in that relationship. When triggers arise, remember that triggers are equal seeds of opportunity for strengthening the connection together. So as long as you don't avoid the work or run away at the first sign of trouble, these are opportunities to strengthen and evolve together, or to fall apart so that you can align with something that is more aligned with your soul's purpose. Life is but a series of attachments and detachments. Relationships all have expiration dates, and nothing lasts forever. In poker, it's all about knowing when to show them and knowing when to fold them. Whether people come into our lives for a short time or a long time, they always bring a lesson, so long as we remain humble enough to receive their teaching. Thank you again for tuning in. I'd invite you to continue to subscribe. We are trying to reach that goal of 500 subscribers.